Hi everybody, today we're going to do Masterboard magic. We're going to take one Masterboard and we're going to turn it into 6 mixed media projects. Now here's the Masterboard that I created a couple weeks ago. Now a Masterboard is a self-made mixed media pattern paper that the artist creates herself. After creating the Masterboard, you take it, you can chop it up and make ATCs, journal pages, albums, whatever you can imagine. So I'm putting a very fast version of the creation of this Masterboard here. If you want to skip this, you can go to minute 128 to see me turn this into the projects. I will put a link in the iCard in the top right-hand corner to the full tutorial video where you get the step-by-step instructions on there. But I thought it was interesting to include this at the beginning part of this video. Now I did my Masterboard on 11 by 17 copy paper. You can do it on mixed media paper or watercolor paper, and then you don't have to mount it onto a substrate when you cut it apart. But since I do it in journals, coiled journals, and I know I'm going to be gluing it down, I wanted it to be lightweight. Now I've made these window templates, and you can take that with the Masterboard and play with the orientation. And if you want a certain part that looks a certain way, this is a way that you can get that view. And I made it various sizes, ATCs, things I was using for the index card a day challenge, my 5x7s, 3x5s, all the various size pages that I might use with a Masterboard. So the first make, I am going to make this into a card. Now this is a folded card from the Crafter's Workshop, and it measures 6 by 6. So I'm going to get out my cutter here, and I'm just going to cut it. Now I want a white border around, so I'm cutting this 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches square. So I get that white border. Now, I made all 6 projects in one day. It was a very full day. And you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just cut one piece off. Now I'm cutting a piece for my 7 by 10 art journal. This is coiled, and I took it out of the coils so I get to work flat. Now I'm cutting an ATC, which measures 2.5 by 3.5. And I have some cardstock there that I'm going to mount it on. This is a mini composition book. Now I can make a template for this, and actually I did, and I don't know where it is, but I just like putting it there and just cutting it to size as I glue it down. Speaking of gluing it down, because the Masterboard is layered, there's collage papers on top of the copy paper, it's a little thicker, so I'm using matte gel medium to glue all the Masterboard pieces onto the whatever substrate I have chosen. And I'm using the brayer to press it down. This really helps it make that seal and smooth it down. Once I cut it, I am checking the edges to make sure that everything is adhered down and just adding a little bit of that gel medium. And I really want to make sure this dries before I go to the next levels. So I'm kind of doing this in an assembly line, but like I said, when you're using a Masterboard, you don't have to use all the pieces in one sitting. I'm doing it mostly for the sake of the video. And there you see I'm adding the gel medium and pressing it down. And then I had a little piece left, so I'm adding, it's another ATC. And depending on what part of the masterboard and variations, you can have two ATCs that look very different. Now with the card here, I'm just taping off on the fold because I just want to keep all the gunk away and I want to be able to space to, I'm just eyeballing, but I want to have basically the same amount of white border all the way around it. And I'm using TCW gel medium in the matte finish for all the project here. Now with a lot of these, now here are the little bits that I had left. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to use those up as well. So I grabbed a 6x6 mixed media board from the Crafter's Workshop. It's kind of like foam core. And I'm arranging those little bits. I'm getting rid of the straight edges. And then I grabbed a gel print that I had that's darker to build some contrast. And I'm layering this up and gluing it all down with the gel medium. So literally very little of that 11x17 masterboard ended up in the garbage. I would say about 98% is on one of the 6 projects. I'm layering this up, just making interesting, adding contrast. I added that darker one. I think that was a really good decision. So we have a 7x10 art journal, a 6x6 card, a mini composition book, 2 ATCs, and a 6x6 mixed media board. So let's work on the card first. Now this looks lovely as it is. I could just have slapped a sentiment on and done nothing, but I really like that fan flower stenciling in the back in the white, and I thought of putting a daisy flower. This is just a free printable, and I'm gluing it down. This time I've gone with the fluid medium because I'm not dealing with thick paper, and giving it a dry here. I just showed I could have put the little one inside and layered it up. Now, for the most part, I left the Masterboard as it was. It was beautiful and it was complete. But if you want to add, if when you're setting up composition, you're finding something's missing, grab out the same stencil that you used and you can just do what I'm doing here and just adding something back in. I wanted a few more of these red leaves to this background. Now I grabbed my short and sweet sentiment pack and I have printed that out on matte Avery stickers. And so this becomes just peel and stick. And you see the background through it. And it's very matte and I love it. And I will put a link in my Amazon affiliate store below to that product. I highly recommend it and it's great for cards and ATCs. Now I want this daisy to look painted, and I apologize, it's a little off screen. And I'm just adding white paint or white gesso, painting over top of it. I want it to look painted, not like I glued something down, although you could go with that too. I painted the center, the yellow, the same yellow that's in the background because I want to tie everything together. I'm outlining it with my Sakura Glaze pen. This is black and it's dimensional and glossy. I'm adding a double line just for a little added detail. I'm using my stencil brush and stippling on some brown to the center. And then I'm shading with that yellow color to bring out the shape of the petals. Doing a little bit of shading on the outside edge and around the center as well. And then I come in, oh, still more shading. I think I grab the stencil brush and I add a little bit of black to the middle. And I'm going to splatter with gold. Now this is just Liquitex Basics gold. I spray water, mix it up, and get it to the perfect consistency to spray. Now here is the mixed media board. Pictures of the final projects are at the end. I'm adding some gesso and then I'm adding some of the colors in there, the quinacridone magenta, deep violet with orange. And I selected a cutout from a magazine of the orchids. And I like the yellow. The yellow is going really well with that background. And I want to just add a little bit more of that yellow to the board. I'm just painting the sides. These mixed media boards are perfect to sit on a ledge or on, you can buy little easels or kind of like the plate racks to display them. And I'm just playing with the sentiments here. And I decide I want to add a detail. And I really like that fan flower pattern that was on the original Masterboard, but I'm doing it on black. And I want to do this to frame, kind of give a backdrop to the focal image, the orchid. Liking that effect. Adding black kind of shading, edging around the edge. I ripped off the buds there, and then I can put them where I want them, right? If you don't like where something is, you can alter it to fit. I grabbed this word stamp from Stamperia, and I'm putting gold paint on it and stamping with the gold paint. Again, I use that same pattern in the original Masterboard, even though you can't really make out the Masterboard per se on this one. Gluing this down with the fluid matte medium. But if you don't have fluid, you can use the gel medium. Now I'm colorizing the orchid. I'm adding colors, I'm adding gesso. I want this to look very painterly. Again, like I painted it as opposed to just glued it on. I'm using white gesso, painting out the leaves, then adding the color back in. And actually, I end up with a lighter yellow than what the original was, but because my background is so dark, I did that on purpose. I'm shading with the deep violet. You know, I'm following what was there and altering it as I see fit. Now, with the exception of this one, the Masterboard, I kept pretty much as it was, but you can add whatever you need to make it fit whatever project you're on. You could do a wash of color. You could use gesso and white out areas and put the colors you want. You can add stamps or stenciling. Whatever the page or project requires, you can add to it. The Masterboard, while it can be used just as it is, and it makes it really easy, or you can alter it. This sentiment comes from my Through the Garden Gate sentiment pack. Those and some of the TCW stencils and mediums and that word stamp that I used are all available at NinnysNapkins.com. There is an affiliate link below and a discount code as well. I really like this project considering this was just leftover bits. So the 7 by 10, I remembered that I had stamped with gel medium, and I'll put a link in the iCards top right hand corner to the video where I made these with the gel medium. They're using Tracy Scott's Paper Artsy stamps. I like the shape of this. It goes with the shape of the leaves that I did in red on the Masterboard. So I want the elements to go. So I went and I thought, okay, am I going to make this into a flower by itself, standalone self? And then I thought, oh, I could put a Julie Nutting doll on there, and there's a flower. I could put the sentiment bloom on there. And I kept playing with it. And I decide, you know what, I'm going to turn this Julie Nutting doll into an angel. These are going to become angel wings. Now, this doll was in my stash, and I will put a link to my Build Your Stash playlist that shows you ways you can make things that you can add to your stash. This dress, the yellow, I wanted it more the red, so I'm giving it several coats of the red just to tie it all in. Now this doll didn't have legs, so I'm cutting the legs from another doll and just adding it. Mix and match. And I went to the sentiment. I said, we are all winging it. That's what angels do. This is a sentiment that's coming from a work in progress, a sentiment pack that I'm working on it. I think it's called Wings and Things. I'm not sure. Wings or angels. And I printed it out in 2 sizes, and I thought I could mix and match that. I ended up going with the smaller size because I wanted more of that Masterboard background to show. Now I'm grabbing gel medium this time with the gel medium on that ephemera that those leaves that I'm gluing down the yellow. It was a little thicker and it's texturized, so it needed a little something more to hold it down. The doll is also on thicker paper, so on mixed media paper. Now I'm drawing a line down on the side, and that's just going to be a guideline, and I'm folding my sentiment in half to get where the middle is, and that way I can make sure it's perfectly lined up. Somehow I still managed to not get it perfectly lined up, but if you're more careful than I, you can make that work. Usually I just eyeball it. But if you were doing this on a canvas, a more permanent thing than art journaling page, you may want to do that extra step. I'm taking my General's charcoal and shading around the edge, and this just ties everything together. Just finishes it off. Then I continue around the wings, add some shading, add some definition to the wings so it stands out against the background. Secure a glaze, outlining, just to make, again, it to stand out. And then around the wings, I wanted it more. So now we have the last 3 makes, the composition book and the 2 ATCs. Now, a lot of time was spent off camera going through my stash, picking things that were the right size or the colors that would go with this background. These butterflies came from the dollar store. This is Tim Holtz's Crazy Dogs. and I believe this is a stamp called Majestic Dragonfly. I think it'll be in the description box below. All the stamps that I've used will be in the description box. But they all were in my stash, stamped and cut out and ready to go, which makes it really easy. You got the Masterboard done, so you're just gluing and then doing a lot of finishing. And the finishing is pretty much the same. I've gone back to my short and sweet sentiment pack and my peel and stick on the matte Avery stickers. Selected some that fit. These are just perfect sizes for ATCs and iCads and composition books. And my sentiment packs are also available at NinnysNapkins. So now that everything's glued down, I'm going to edge the page or the projects. I guess we're not in pages, we're in ATCs. And then I decide I want to round the corners. This is the We Are Memory Makers Corner Maker. I love a round corner. So I have to re-edge it. And now I'm just going to shade either on this image or beside the image to make it pop from the background. And I'm going to paint the dog, although you could have left it white. Personal choice. Sometimes I like, when you've got a bright, colorful background, leaving it white. And I'm using the same yellow that's on the background. Remember, you want it to all tie together. And now I'm bringing in a combination of brown and black, and I'm shading. And you could use markers to color these or whatever your preferred way of coloring them. Outlining the sentiment and just going around the outside edge. I just think that I find that finishes it off. These little composition books make such nice little gifts. They're perfect for the purse. Adding some gold to the wings to get that shimmer. Then I line them all up and I'm splattering with gold. So here's the finished 7x10 art journal page. The 6x6 card. The 6x6 media board. Mini composition book. And the 2 ATCs. 1 Masterboard, 6 mixed media projects. Close-ups of all of them are coming up. Give me a thumbs up. Follow me on Instagram at Creative Katie. Leave me a comment. But most importantly, go create your own Masterboard in a color scheme that you love and use it to make some projects. Have fun.